Hello, YouTube world. Thanks for checking in the Khaliis take. Now, today's take will be talking about what is the biggest weakness of Kawhi Leonard's game. Now, before we get into the video, please like, subscribe, leave any comments. Also, hit the notification bell for future content. Please check out my other videos as well and like and comment on those also. Now, let's just go ahead and jump right into it. When we think about the claw Kawhi Leonard, which is, one of my favorite players in the NBA, I think Kawhi Leonard is definitely a top 2, top 3 player. I think he's definitely a player that a lot of people, overlook at times, because even though Kawhi Leonard's a great player, even though I think he's one of the best defensive players ever, even though I think that, Kawhi Leonard is one of the top players in the league, I think sometimes it's not really because of his, quietness, because he doesn't speak. I don't think it's really because of that. The reason why he gets overlooked is like in the MVP voting, MVP conversation, all the above. I think sometimes it's just a matter of his aggressiveness. And the biggest weakness to me when I see Kawhi Leonard, he has a lot of attributes. Like I said, he can score 25 to 27 points a game. His scoring has came up, tremendously throughout the years. He's improved in a lot of ways. He really built his own brand, to me. And, with that being said, it's really hard to, look past those attributes that he has. And, winning the championship in Toronto a couple seasons ago. And, he's already won a championship in San Antonio. Kobe Bryant All-Star MVP, he's 2-time Finals MVP, 2-time Defensive Player of the Year. He's made all NBA teams, all well and great, and that's what makes him one of my favorite players. But at the same time, I think the biggest weakness with Kawhi Leonard is his aggressiveness in the fourth quarters. I think some fourth quarters in a lot of games, he's not aggressive enough. When I think about Kawhi Leonard, I'm trying to remember in my mind how many 40-point plus games has he had in his career. He hasn't had a whole lot. But the thing with Kawhi is the 40-point games he's had, I think most of them might have either came in the playoffs or, the rest might have came during the season at some point, but he really doesn't turn into that aggressive animal that I think he could. Like when I think about Kobe Bryant, with the turnaround fadeaway like Michael Jordan, the jumper, all this stuff, Kawhi has that type of skill set. Kawhi has the turnaround fadeaway, the mid-range. He's like the mid-range king, and he plays defense on both ends, and he plays really hard defense. And he still could put up 20, 25, 27 points a game. So to me, he's the best two-way player in the game, to me. But at the same time, if you're not being overly aggressive sometime in the fourth quarters of games, you're not going to win those games. And that could be the difference of, Kawhi having 1 or 2 championships rather than him having maybe a few more championships. And I'm not saying Kawhi isn't going to get it together, because Kawhi is a good enough player to do this. I'm just saying that when you think about the situation and everything in regards to Kawhi, how come when you look at Kawhi in a lot of fourth quarter games, he puts up decent numbers in the fourth quarter? I'm not saying that he doesn't, because he does, but a lot of times he just doesn't take over in the fourth quarter when I think he should. I don't think he's aggressive enough in the fourth quarter sometime to just put the nail in the coffin on some teams. Let that sink in. He just doesn't put the nail in the coffin on some teams, or in the fourth quarter, I should say. He just doesn't put the nail in the coffin. What I mean by that is, like I said, Kawhi Leonard, you'll look at Kawhi Leonard's stat line a lot of times, and he'll have, let's say, maybe 35 points, 31 points. He'll have 31 points, maybe 8 rebounds, 5 assists. But how come you don't see Kawhi drop a lot of 40-point games? Because Kawhi is a first quarter to a third quarter scorer. A lot of times Kawhi will have like 14 by halftime. And in the third quarter, he'll score 13 to 15 points alone in the third quarter. And it's like, to me, if he has that killer mentality, if he turns on that killer mentality more and implement that in his game more, we're looking at Kobe Bryant 2.0. We're looking at Jordan 2.0. So, even though he's revered with those guys in regards to his gameplay, but he's not, it's a difference being revered with those guys in your gameplay because it mimics their game. But it's a difference being revered as one of those guys as far as being an animal and a killer at the right point in time and being aggressive in that fourth quarter. Because I think if Kawhi Leonard was more aggressive in fourth quarters, I think he had more 40-point games in his career. And I think he might actually, possibly, he might actually win an MVP. Because, if you look at this year, he's playing really good this year. He really is. He's playing back-to-backs. He's showing what he can do. Now, I know the game tonight against, or today, earlier, I should say yesterday, the game earlier yesterday against the Kings, they lost. And he only had 20 points, but he did have 10 rebounds. He did have a double-double, which was good. But when you look at games like that, he's supposed to just go out there and dominate. He's not supposed to have 20 points against the Kings. He should drop 35 to 40 points easily. I mean, De'Aaron Fox had, I think De'Aaron Fox had 30-something points. And that's what I'm saying. De'Aaron Fox can't have 30-point stat line and Kawhi doesn't. It's no way. And I try to let that sink in with me at times to try to figure out why Kawhi is like that. But Kawhi has to learn to be more aggressive in games and just go dominate in that fourth quarter. Because that fourth quarter is the money quarter. And that could be the difference between Kawhi winning a couple more championships rather than him just sitting on the 2 championships that he has, which is, don't get me wrong, that's good. Having 2 championships is awesome. Some players only win 1. I mean, he's solidified. He's still a great player. But at the same time, I think he could take it up another level if he's a little bit more aggressive in fourth quarters. Because if he's more aggressive in the fourth quarter and that's his mentality, that's his mind state, I mean, Kawhi can take over the NBA easily. Now, I will say this. In the playoffs, his numbers and everything pick up then. But it's like, even though he does that in the playoffs, to me, the more and more you play in the NBA, the more and more you play a sport, you can't have that switch where you turn it on and off. You have to be aggressive the whole game. And I feel like Kawhi, he wasted the playoffs to really, really turn into that animal that he can be. And even though he does that, I feel like sometimes that hurts his game more than help it. Because in the regular season, even though the regular season games don't count as much as the playoffs, but they do gear you up for the playoffs when you get there. And if he's going out there being aggressive in the regular season, in the fourth quarters, and going out there and maybe not trying to drop 40 points, but, going out there and have that mentality of aggressiveness that Kobe had, that Jordan had. Kobe and Jordan, to me, if they're going to compare him to Kobe and Jordan, even though with his, mid-range, all that stuff, he needs to have their mentality. Kobe in the fourth quarter will drop 15, 20 points at times. Kobe would go out there and kill a team in the fourth quarter. There would be third quarters. I remember when I seen Kobe Bryant would actually, put his points up and everything. But that fourth quarter, Kobe was all gas, no brakes. He was going out there to let you know, this is the money quarter. Fourth quarter is when it counts the most. That's the money quarter, and that's the quarter you want your best player to go out there and kill a team. And I think sometimes Kawhi is just not aggressive enough. And I don't know if it's because of his demeanor, mentality, but I definitely believe and I definitely know Kawhi has it in him to do it. He just doesn't do it. And I don't think you could turn that switch on and off all the time. Now, in the playoffs, Kawhi plays, even harder. And he does, and I'll give him that. But I just think if he implemented that in his game in the regular season and then took it into the playoffs, I think we're talking about a whole different animal. And to me, you don't want to give out the indication to your teammates that you're that way. Oh, okay, in the playoffs, we're getting a different Kawhi. We're all right. We have nothing to worry about. During the regular season, we'll just get this Kawhi and we'll be okay. No, you want your best player to be that way every time you see him play. You want that consistency. And what I'm saying is I think they need more consistency out of Kawhi in regards to his aggressiveness. Because in fourth quarters, I see a lot of games in the fourth quarters where he just doesn't take over the way I think he can and the way I know he can. Because he shows a lot of that in the playoffs. But sometimes, like I said, turn that switch on and off. It's really not a good thing. Now, I'm not saying Kawhi will win another championship. I'm not saying any of those things. But what I'm saying is for him to be really, really classified with the Kobe's and the Jordans, to get the 4 or 5 championships, you're going to have to learn to do that in the fourth quarters and be more aggressive in the fourth quarters of the regular season and in the playoffs. Because I just don't think turning that switch on and off all the time is going to help you. I think with Kawhi is going to have to just learn to, listen, it's fourth quarter, it's money time. This team, like a team like the Kings, they shouldn't beat the Clippers 110 to 113, even though they don't have Paul George. They still should beat the Kings. But at the same time, I think Kawhi has to just understand, this is my time, fourth quarter is my time. Let's go do this. Because, I always thought in my mind, to be a great team in the NBA, you have to beat the teams you're supposed to beat. And beating the teams you're supposed to beat, those are teams like the Sacramento Kings. Those are those little losses right there that other teams look at and be like, well, for them losing to the Kings is not a good look because they gave De'Aaron Fox 30 points in that game, and Kawhi Leonard didn't give them 30 points. Kawhi Leonard only scored 20, when clearly Kawhi Leonard has the green light to score more, but he chose not to. And he did shoot 9 for 21 in that game. He didn't shoot, awfully, he didn't shoot his best, I would say. Usually he's more efficient than that, but at the same time, unless you have that mentality in games like that, it's games like that where you need the fourth quarter mentality where I'm going out here to take over. I'm not going out here to pass. I'm not going out here to get 15 assists because that's not who I am. I go out here and I shoot people. And that's what Kawhi has to realize. You have to be that dog mentality all the way through. You're 29 years old. You're not 35 like LeBron James. When LeBron James was 29, 26, 23, LeBron was aggressive all the time. He was aggressive in the games he played in the regular season, and he was definitely aggressive in the games he played in the playoffs. And to me, that's the difference with Kawhi. Kawhi needs to have that mentality 99% of the time to be more aggressive in the regular season and in the playoffs. Because turning that switch on and off sometime that comes back to bite you. And when it does, last year happens. You lose 3-1 to the Nuggets. And I'm not blaming all that on Kawhi because Kawhi got tired. He got tired out. He wasn't, playing at his best. You know what I'm saying? He got wore down. And, the Clippers just wasn't mentally there. They wasn't a mentally better team than the Nuggets. They were a better team on paper, but mentally they weren't better because the Nuggets got in their head and it was pretty much over with. But at the same time, that goes back to what I'm saying. Turning that switch on and off is never a good thing. This is why I said I need to see more 35, 40-point games out of Kawhi Leonard because he can definitely do it. He definitely has that Mamba mentality. He just doesn't use it all the time. And he has to learn you are a top 2, top 3 player in this league. And with that comes a responsibility of winning the games you're supposed to. And losing to the Kings 113-110, even though you don't have Paul George, you only had 20 points and 10 rebounds, which is a good stat line for a lot of players, which is a good stat line for him. But it would only be an even better stat line if they won. So De'Aaron Fox scores 30, you score 20. Paul George is not there. Who has the green light? You do. You have the green light. Especially when you have the green light when Paul George is there. But you really have the green light when he's not there. And that's a game to me where Kawhi should drop 30 points easily. Nobody on the Kings should be able to stop Kawhi Leonard. And when Kawhi Leonard's really mentally engaged, nobody on the Kings could stop him. And that's what I'm saying. It's intangible. It's little things like that might separate Kawhi from being on the Kobe, LeBron, Jordan level. Because they got 4+ championships. You have 2. And no, granted, Kawhi hasn't been in the league as long as them. God rest Kobe's soul, by the way. But he hasn't been in the league, 12, 15 years, I don't believe. But at the same time, that mentality of being aggressive at all times in every game that you play. See, even if Kawhi load manages, that's okay. Because we know Kawhi has knee issues. But even if he does load manage, that's okay. But the games that you do play, I need to see you drop double digits in the fourth quarter on a consistent basis. Because when you drop double digits in the fourth quarter, you're putting the defense on their heels and you're letting that other team know, I'm about to take over this game. I'm the best player on the floor and there's nothing you can do about it. And I just think that's the biggest weakness in Kawhi's game. His mentality needs to be all gas, no brakes, go out there and make it happen. Because if you're not doing that in the fourth quarter, the money quarter, if you're not scoring double digits or close to double digits in the money quarter, you're going to lose a lot of those games that you shouldn't. And that could be the difference of you being the number 1 seed rather than you being the number 2 or 3 seed in the Western Conference. And you never know, by the end of the season, maybe playoff time, maybe they might start letting some fans in, this and that. So having that home court advantage, and let's just hypothetically say some fans can come in there and, watch the team play. You know what I'm saying? You having that home court advantage, it possibly could make a difference. So, I mean, it's just little things like that I think makes Kawhi, he's still a great player, but that it's a glaring weakness that I think a lot of people will start to see after a while. Because like I said, I can't tell you how many 40-point games LeBron's had. I can't tell you how many 40-point games Kobe's had, which is a lot. Mike, no need even going there. He's had plenty. But this is what I'm saying. Every superstar player you've ever seen, from Allen Iverson to Michael Jordan to LeBron to Kobe, any one of them you could think of, KG, Paul Pierce, whatever, Dirk Nowitzki, it doesn't matter. Any superstar you can think of, when you think about them, they've had a lot of 40-point+ games, 35, 40+ point games, because of the aggressive mentality going in the fourth quarter that you need to put the nail in the coffin of another team. Sometimes Kawhi Leonard needs to realize you can't put the clamps. You don't have to always put the clamps on another team's opposing superstar to try to shut them down in the fourth quarter. Sometimes you need to put the clamps on the game in the fourth quarter by dropping double digits in the fourth quarter and putting that nail in the coffin where the team has no confidence of coming back to win that game. And that's the difference between him and Kobe and the Michael Jordans. Yeah, his game mimics theirs, but at the same time, his mentality in the fourth quarter, needs to be, it needs to be more aggressive because he definitely has it in him. And because he has it in him, he definitely needs to use it more because he's already the claw. He already doesn't talk. He's already a Terminator. He already likes going out there shooting people. So because you have that mentality, take that in the fourth quarter in the regular season games, then take it in the playoffs with the same mentality. Because in the playoffs, like I said, he always comes out and plays as hard and turns it up a level. He always does that. But now that he's been in the league a while, he needs to realize you need to do that in the regular season too. So you can gear up your mentality to do it so much and be so fluent with it when it comes time for playoffs. You won't have to worry about being up 3-1 against the Nuggets and losing that lead and losing that series because your mentality, because you're utilizing that skill or that thought process of being aggressive in the fourth quarter and taking over the game and showing everybody on the court that you're the best player in the world or best player on that floor. Because you had that mentality in the regular season and games like this against the Kings and teams like that you're supposed to beat that you lost to, if you have that mentality in games like this in the regular season, where it's only going to carry over to the postseason, the playoffs, and you're going to be even more dominant. And that's what people need to see. And that's what I'd like to see out of Kawhi Leonard more, because I know he has it in him. He just has to go out there and display it and realize this is the only way your teammates follow you to that stature and you're going to win a championship. Because if he doesn't win a championship this year with the Clippers, then who knows where it goes from here. But he's got to get everybody on that team. Everybody on that team has to realize, and they know that he's the best player, but he has to go in there in the fourth quarters on a consistent basis in the regular season and show everybody, I'm dropping double digits in the fourth quarter. I'm the best player on the floor, and there's nothing the other team can do about it. And we're about to put this team away. And that's, to me, that's the key to the Clippers possibly getting over the hump. Their superstar needs to be more aggressive in these games in the regular season and show that in the playoffs. Because as I said before, turn that switch on and off, eventually, that's only going to come back to bite you. Because all the great ones before him, they didn't turn that switch on and off. They do it all season. Even the players you watch now. I mean, a couple years ago, you look at Stephen Curry, all these other players. There's a lot of games Curry dropped 40 points. Because like I said, a lot of times, you even though it's a regular season game, you gotta put the other team away, and you gotta put the clamps on them and let them know we can't beat this team and we're not better because we don't have a better player. And Kawhi is the best player on the floor, and that's what he needs to show, and that's a weakness of his. But hey, that's just my take on it. Leave any comments and likes in the comment section. Hey, till next time.